What's up guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. So here in today's video, I just wanted to do a follow-up of the video I did yesterday. Yesterday's video is called The Truth About the Cage System That Nobody Talks About. Alright, so the thing is, the big misconception, I'm always saying, CAGED is not about scales. CAGED is not about scale patterns. CAGED is not about scale box patterns. CAGED is not about connecting scale box patterns together so you can solo over the whole fretboard. CAGED has absolutely nothing to do with scales or scale patterns whatsoever. The misconception comes down to the fact that everyone is confusing CAGED with the 5 pentatonic positions. When you're identifying scale positions and you're connecting box patterns together and stuff like that, you're using the 5 pentatonic positions. It's just that the whole internet is confused about the CAGED system. They're all like, oh, CAGED is about scales. CAGED is about scale patterns. Connect these 5 CAGED scale positions together and you can solo. Yay. But it's the 5 pentatonic positions. It's not the CAGED system. Let me just talk about a couple reasons as to why this misconception happens in the first place. And then I'm going to give you a couple fretboard diagrams showing you what it looks like on the fretboard. And then, I don't know, hopefully this video won't be super long because then I won't have too much editing to do. So the first reason that this misconception happens and people confuse the CAGED system with the pentatonic scale is because there's 5 CAGED shapes and there's 5 pentatonic positions. Because there's 5 of each of these things, and they're 2 very popular guitar systems, it's very easy to conflate these 2 things, okay? Now, this isn't the worst thing in the world. It's like, when you know the pentatonic scale, when you know your 5 pentatonic positions, and then you can like solo in all the different positions, and you can weave in and out of pentatonic boxes, what you are able to do then is you're able to solo in a single key. So you can pop on a backing track in C minor, and then solo using the C minor pentatonic scale across the whole neck. Or you could pop on a backing track in B major, and then solo over the whole neck using the B major pentatonic scale, weaving in and out of positions. And it sounds good doing that. It sounds great doing that, you know? So it's a positive result that you're getting from doing that, all right? So if someone incorrectly tells you, hey, the CAGED system is these 5 connecting scale patterns that you connect together, and then once you do that, you can solo in any key, and then you can jam along with backing tracks, and you can weave in and out of these different positions, and then you do that, and then it sounds good, you get a positive result, you're like, whoa, that's awesome, and then you think that the CAGED system is the reason that you're now awesome, and then you tell all your friends that the CAGED system is what you need to learn, and then they tell all their friends that the CAGED system is what they need to learn. And then the whole internet is like, hey, CAGED system, yay, that's what we're doing. But in reality, all they learned was the 5 pentatonic positions. The second thing is the fact that guitar players love scale patterns. They love scale patterns so much, and they hate chord shapes. They hate chord shapes so much. Guitar players, they really just don't like paying attention to the chords, honestly, really. Like, that's really the next level stuff. That's where the CAGED system comes into play. That's advanced stuff. So the CAGED system is advanced stuff. It's for advanced level soloing, keeping up with the chord changes. But the average guitar player, they don't like that. They don't like keeping up with the chord changes. They just want to know the key. They just want to pop on a backing track in the key of A minor, and they just want to solo using the A minor scale patterns. They love doing that. They don't want to be like, oh man, I have to pay attention to the chords now. Damn, it's an A minor chord, and then it's a G major chord, then it's a D minor chord. Oh, it's too much thinking, you know? Guitar players don't like doing that, but they love only paying attention to the key. All right, this is just a universal thing. I'm guilty of it too. Because of this, the CAGED system must be about scales. It must be, okay? It can't be about anything else because all guitar players love playing scale patterns and we hate paying attention to the chords. Therefore, the CAGED system must be what all its guitar players love. We love scale patterns, we hate chords, so the CAGED system must be about scale patterns. No, it's not. It's about chords, okay? It's about that hard stuff that you're avoiding, all right? It's about paying attention to those chords that you've been avoiding all your life. So I thought I had a third thing, but I can't think of it, so we're just going to stop here. So those are the 2 main reasons that people confuse the 5 CAGED shapes with the 5 pentatonic positions. so what you see here is the diatonic scale spanned across the entire fretboard for a single key. The thing about the guitar, the cool thing about the guitar is that all of the keys share this exact same pattern. This is a giant complicated matrix of notes. It's super hard. This is the key of C major though, or the key of A minor. That means there's no sharp notes, there's no flat notes. So if you were to take this over to a piano, you would just be playing the white keys. It would be super easy. But the fact that it's on a guitar, it forms this super complicated matrix of notes that takes forever to learn. All right, it takes several years to learn this giant complicated matrix of notes. In order to learn this giant complicated matrix of notes, you do not need the CAGED system. The CAGED system has nothing to do with this at all. The whole internet will tell you that this is what the CAGED system's for, but it's not. It's only going to confuse you if you think that. But let's move on. Okay, so you have this giant complicated matrix of notes. It's super hard. It's way harder than a piano. But the cool thing about the guitar is if you learn the super complicated matrix of notes one single time for one single key, then you can then play in any of the keys. Because this giant complicated matrix of notes is exactly the same for all of the keys, it just shifts up or down the fretboard depending on what key you're in. So right now you're looking at the key of C major. If I was in the key of C sharp major, I would just move everything up, or D flat major. All right. If I was in the key of D major, I would move everything up again. If I was in the key of D sharp or E flat major, maybe call E flat major, I would move everything up again, you know? But it's the same giant complicated matrix of notes for all keys. So in order to learn this giant complicated matrix of notes, we break it down into smaller chunks, which connect together. And then when you learn how to connect together the smaller chunks, ultimately the goal is to be able to play the big, giant, complicated matrix of notes. All right? Now this is where all the misconceptions start coming into play, right? This is where everyone's like, oh, that must be what modes is about. That must be what the CAGED system is about. No and no. All right? Connecting scale patterns together is a thing. It's a big thing. It's a very important thing. Everyone should learn how to do it. Every guitar player needs to learn how to do it. But it doesn't mean that the CAGED system is the answer to that, all right? It is not. So, in order to connect these giant scale patterns, or in order to learn this giant matrix of notes by connecting smaller scale patterns together, you can do it in a few different ways. You can use 7 small connecting scale patterns, you can use 5 small connecting scale patterns, or you can use 3 small connecting scale patterns. I have videos that explain all of those ways. I'll put a link to one of those if you want to check that out too. Today's video, I'm just going to talk about the 5 pattern connecting method, otherwise known as the 5 pentatonic position, often confused with the CAGED system. All right, so let's see where the confusion comes in. All right, so let's break this down into 5 smaller connecting patterns. Okay, so this is going to be our first one. Everyone knows and loves this one, you know? And then if you go ahead and add in your extra notes, that was just the pentatonic notes. That was the 5-note pentatonic scale. I can play all 7 notes right in that single position. Alright, or pentatonic only. You know, pentatonic only or all 7 notes. That is a position. So the second of the 5 positions would be right here. That's the pentatonic only. Alright, so you can go ahead and add in your diatonic notes. So you can just play the 5-note pentatonic scale, or you can play the 7-note scale there. Next position, okay? Messed up there a little bit. Alright, moving up, you then have your 4th position, pentatonic only. Adding in the extra notes to play the full 7-note diatonic scale. And then moving up, you have the 5th position, and you could play it as just pentatonic only if you wanted to. Or you can go ahead and you can add in your extra notes to play the diatonic scale. Alright, and then you're back at the 1st position again, up here. Pentatonic only. Adding in the diatonic notes. Alright, so you have 5 positions. You can label these positions as however you want. You can say this is position A, B, C, D, E. You can say this is position red, green, blue, yellow, black. You could say whatever you want. I just call it the pentatonic positions because that's a language that most guitar players seem to understand. So I'm just like pentatonic position 1, pentatonic position 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Now, the CAGED misconception comes right in here, you know? So people are like, oh, well, I'm in the key of C major. The C major chord is found in the G shape right here. It's the G position. The C major chord, we're in the key of C major here, so the C major chord is found in the second position in the E shape. Must be the E position, right? The C major chord is found in the D shape in this scale pattern, so this is called the D position. This is called the C position because the C major chord is found in the C shape. This is called the A position because the C major chord is found in the A shape. So they're using CAGED names as their arbitrary labels. You could use pentatonic positions, you could use CAGED names, you could use color names, you could use letter names, you could use your favorite pet names, you could do whatever you want. Some people even use mode names. Some people will just use 5 of the 7 major scale mode names to label these 5 positions. There's many ways to arbitrarily label these positions. But just because you choose to apply a CAGED name to one of these positions does not mean that you understand the CAGED system. If I take a screwdriver and I start hammering a bunch of nails into the ground with it, it does not mean that that screwdriver is a hammer. It just means I used a different tool for a different job. I used a tool that was not quite ideal, but it still got the job done, but it doesn't mean that I used a hammer. If you're using CAGED names to label your scale positions, that is equivalent to using a screwdriver to hammer nails in. It will get the job done. It will allow musicians to communicate with one another, guitar players to communicate with one another. It will allow people to make up, images that they can spread around the internet and stuff that can help to mislead other people to also believe the same misconception. Sure, you can do lots of things. But at the end of the day, you're still just trying to whack a nail in with the back of a screwdriver. That's what you're trying to do. Why? Why is that? Okay, let's just look at any of these positions. Let's look at the G position. In the key of C major, you're going to have a C major chord as your first chord, which is going to be found in the G shape. You're also going to have a 2 chord, which is a D minor chord, which is going to be found in the A shape, made into a minor chord because it's minor. It's the 2 chord of a key. Also in this position, you have your 3 chord, which in the key of C major is an E minor chord. You could play this chord in either the C shape made minor, or you could play it in the A shape made minor. In this position, pentatonic position number 1, you have the F major chord in the C shape. In this pentatonic position number 1, you have your 5 chord in the key of C major. The 5 chord is the G major chord. So in this pentatonic position number 1, we have our G major chord, which happens to be found in the D shape. So it looks like this. In this pentatonic position number 1, we have our 6th chord, which is the A minor chord that's found in the E shape made minor. And you also have your 7 chord, which is like an E shape made into a half diminished chord. That's going to be your B half diminished chord. All right, so you have your 1 chord in this pentatonic position 1. You have your 2 chord. You have your 3 chord. You have your 4 chord. You have your 5 chord. You have your 6 chord. And you have your 7 chord. All right, so these shapes are not super easy to play. You don't have to play the shapes in full. It's just for seeing, visualizing the shape. Like if I see this, I'm not going to play that full shape, but I could be like, oh, I'll just play like this much of it. Cool. All right. You don't have to play the shapes in full. It's just letting you know, the chord shape as a whole, but just play pieces of it, whatever. Anyway, okay. So if this is, if we're calling this the G position, don't you think it's confusing to label the static position that's not moving, it's remaining unchanged? Like if you're soloing over a backing track that's in the key of C major or the key of A minor, and all of the chords are in the key of C major or the key of A minor, no key changes are taking place whatsoever, you don't have to change scales. You can just play one scale the whole time. If you want, you can just play right here the whole time, So does it make much sense to be like, hey, I'm in the G position, while also simultaneously applying CAGED labels to the ever-changing chords? Oh, this is a C major chord in the G shape in the G position. Oh, this is a G major chord in the D shape in the G position. Oh, this is an F major chord in the C shape in the G position. Like, it's just too confusing. The CAGED terminology is for the chord shape labeling. The chord shapes are constantly changing. That's what the CAGED stuff is for. It's for the chords. It's not for the scale portion. It's pentatonic position 1. That's the part that's staying constant. So like the scale stuff is remaining constant and the chords are constantly changing. That's why I call this layer 1. Layer 1 remains constant. Layer 1 is connecting the scale patterns together. Layer 1 is the 5 pentatonic positions. Okay? Layer 2 is that constantly ever-changing chord shapes. Like, oh man, it's a C, G, A minor, F chord progression. Oh, okay, so... If I'm just ignoring the chords, if I'm just being like a typical guitar player, I'm just like, F those chords. I don't care about them. I don't care about the key because I want to just solo my pattern. You know, solo all day in that pattern. Love that scale pattern. Don't care about those chords. It sounds great. That scale pattern is remaining constant. It's not changing. It's layer 1. That's pentatonic position 4. All that stuff that's changing within that pattern now, all that changey stuff, that's the CAGED system. That's layer 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.